It's 9:14 p.m. on a Tuesday. The TV is on, but neither of you is watching, and you're sitting 3 feet apart, yet it feels like there's an ocean between you. As you glance over, hoping for a look, a smile, anything that signals connection, only to see the back of their head, or worse, them scrolling, completely checked out, while your heart hammers against your ribs, because you just asked a simple question and got silence in return. Your mind starts racing with thoughts like, why does this keep happening? And did I say something wrong? And am I too much or am I not enough? And is this just what love feels like after the honeymoon phase ends? Leaving you with a tightness in your chest, a mix of anger and grief that you swallow down because you're terrified that if you speak up, they'll pull away even further. Here is the truth that no one tells you. The distance isn't happening because you've fallen out of love. It's happening because your nervous systems have entered a war zone, where one person is chasing safety through control, and the other is chasing safety through escape. Meaning you are not crazy, you are not needy, and you are certainly not failing at love. You are simply stuck in one of the most psychologically addictive and destructive dynamics in modern dating. The dance between avoidant personality traits and narcissistic defenses. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why you feel so drained, why logic never works, and how to stop spinning in circles so you can finally choose peace. So let's get into it. Most couples believe that conflict is the enemy of intimacy, thinking that if they could just communicate better, compromise more, or find the right words, the distance would close. Believing that love is about merging into one unit where boundaries blur and needs are met instantly. But the real truth is far deeper, and frankly, harder to hear, which is that in relationships marked by avoidant and narcissistic dynamics, conflict isn't the problem. Safety is the problem. Because when safety leaves a relationship, the love doesn't disappear. It goes underground, hiding behind walls of defensiveness and masks of indifference, as your partner's nervous system reads you before their mind can catch up, interpreting your need for closeness as a threat to their autonomy, or your vulnerability as a weakness to be exploited. Meaning what looks like stonewalling is usually someone who has been so overwhelmed by the demand for emotional intimacy that silence is the only protection they have left. And what looks like charm in the beginning is often a mirror reflecting what you want to see rather than who they are. So until you see this dynamic as a survival response rather than a moral failure, you will keep trying to unlock a door that has no keyhole. Here's the part no one talks about regarding the first pattern, which is the intimacy hangover. Where most people in relationships expect consistency, but in this dynamic, closeness is followed by immediate withdrawal, leading most couples to think this withdrawal is punishment, or that they did something wrong. But the deeper psychological truth is that for someone with strong avoidant or narcissistic traits, intimacy triggers a primal fear of engulfment, causing their nervous system to scream, "Danger! You are losing yourself!" So they deactivate and pull back to regulate their own anxiety, not to hurt you. Which plays out when you have a beautiful weekend together with deep talks and laughter, only for them to be cold and distant on Monday morning, snapping, "I'm just busy, stop suffocating me," when you ask if everything is okay, causing you to panic and chase while they run. Whereas the connecting shift happens when you notice the shift, and instead of chasing, you pause, recognizing it as their regulation process, not your rejection, and saying, "I noticed you're quiet today. I'm going to give you some space, and I'll be here when you're ready." Staying steady without taking the bait. And when you do that, the walls between you start to come down without either of you having to say a word, allowing you to stop being the pursuer and them to stop being the runner. This is where it gets really interesting with the second point, the empathy vacuum. Because most couples believe that if they explain their pain clearly enough, their partner will care, thinking empathy is a skill that can be taught. But the hard truth is that in narcissistic dynamics, empathy isn't missing because they don't understand you. It's missing because acknowledging your pain requires them to admit imperfection, which their fragile ego cannot handle, as their brain quietly registers, if I validate her pain, I am the bad guy, and I cannot be the bad guy. So they invalidate you to protect their self-image, leading to the disconnecting version where you cry because you felt dismissed, and they roll their eyes saying, "You're too sensitive. You're making a mountain out of a molehill," making you feel crazy and apologize for crying. While the connecting shift involves you stopping the search for validation from the source of the wound. Realizing their inability to empathize is a limitation of their character, not a reflection of your worth. And saying internally, "I see your defense. I won't fight it." Soothing yourself and turning toward friends or therapy for that empathy, which is the shift that turns a relationship that feels like a negotiation into one where you reclaim your own reality, stopping the act of begging for water from an empty well.
Most people in relationships think consistency is boring and mistake chaos for passion. Which leads us to the third point, the breadcrumbing cycle, where when the partner with avoidant or narcissistic traits gives you tiny scraps of affection, like a text or a sudden burst of attention, you feel a dopamine hit so strong it addicts you to the high. But here's what nobody explains. This isn't love. It's intermittent reinforcement. The same psychological mechanism that keeps people gambling, giving you just enough hope to keep you hooked, but never enough security to let you relax. Keeping your nervous system in a state of hyper-arousal, constantly scanning for the next hit, which looks like them disappearing for 3 days while you anxiously check your phone every 5 minutes, only for them to suddenly send a meme or say, "Miss you," causing you to light up, forget the silence, and reply instantly, resetting the cycle. Whereas the connecting shift happens when you recognize the pattern, see the breadcrumb for what it is, a low-effort bid for attention without accountability, and refuse to reward the inconsistency by matching their energy or raising your standard. Waiting and letting the silence sit until you realize, I don't want crumbs. I want a meal. And suddenly you stop feeling like a beggar at their table and start feeling like the host of your own life. Not louder conversations, not more compromising, not scheduling a weekly check-in, but two people who actually agree on what happened. Which brings us to the fourth point, the gaslighting fog. Because in these dynamics, reality is fluid. And while most couples argue about facts, here you're arguing about your sanity, as the partner with narcissistic traits will rewrite history to avoid shame, denying things they said and twisting your words until you're defending yourself against accusations you never made, leading to the disconnecting version where you confront them about a broken promise and they say, "I never said that. You're imagining things. You always twist my words," causing you to doubt your memory, record conversations, and feel exhausted trying to prove your own existence. While the connecting shift involves you stopping the attempt to convince them, trusting your own memory, writing things down if needed, not to show them, but to anchor yourself, and saying, "I remember it differently. I'm not going to debate this," disengaging from the need to be right in their eyes, which is when your partner stops feeling like a judge and starts feeling like just a flawed, limited person, and you become unshakable. This is the final and most dangerous stage, the loss of self. Because most couples believe love means sacrifice, thinking giving up hobbies, friends, and opinions is romantic. But in this dynamic, sacrifice becomes erasure, as over time you shrink, monitoring your tone, hiding your needs, and becoming a chameleon, changing colors to keep the peace, until your identity dissolves into the role of the accommodating partner, and you forget who you were before them. Which plays out when you want to go out with friends, but cancel because you know they'll get moody, staying home and resenting them, while telling yourself it's for the relationship, leaving you feeling hollow. Whereas the connecting shift happens when you prioritize your own joy, regardless of their reaction. Going out and enjoying yourself, coming home full, not depleted, and realizing, my happiness is not their responsibility, and their mood is not my emergency. And when you do that, something magical happens, as you become attractive again, not because you're playing a game, but because you are whole, stopping the need for them to complete you, and taking the pressure off the relationship to be your entire world.
Listen, bro, honestly, this isn't a checklist. It's an invitation to wake up. Because by understanding these 5 points, you aren't just learning tips, you are reclaiming your nervous system, moving from a state of reactive anxiety to proactive clarity, and becoming the kind of partner who knows their worth not because someone told them, but because they live it. Meaning when you internalize this, you stop reacting and start responding, and your partner will feel the difference before you've even said a word, leading to either them rising to meet your new boundaries or falling away, both of which are victories because both lead you back to yourself. So remember that real intimacy doesn't start when you find the right person. It starts when you decide to become one. And if this resonated with you, if you felt that click of recognition, hit that like button so this reaches others who are stuck in the fog. Subscribe for more deep dives into the psychology of real connection. And in the comments, tell me which of these 5 patterns you recognize most in your life, because you're not alone in this. So keep going.